162 up, 162 down. Trying to squeeze in between the lull of the action here on the Edge of Philly Sports Network between PBR and EOP Live. Welcome back to the Phightins Final here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B, joined by once again Joe Marks of the Patterson Fanatics. Joe, how are you?
What is up, Matty P? Give yourself a gold star. You made it.
I made it. Yes, one. It's bittersweet, Joe. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself until Friday, but yeah, 162 up, 162 down today. The Phillies finished their 2022 regular season in Houston against the Houston Astros, dropping the game today 3-2. But we saw a Maton versus Maton pitching batting duel, which was probably the highlight of a very boring baseball game.
Yes.
That had a lot of spring training aspects to it, to include multiple pitching changes and pitch counts and what have you, and a lot of the regular players not playing. But Joe, it's done. We've gotten to the end. The Phillies actually finished the season, or I should say they finished the second half of the season about one game better than they did in the first half. But at the end of everything, they get to the playoffs. Obviously, we all know now that our opponent will be the St. Louis Cardinals. The series will begin on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday out there in St. Louis. Joe, now that we've gotten here and they did not met, so to speak, how are you feeling about the Phillies going forward?
By the way, the Mets did met, so congratulations to you guys.
They met. They didn't met. They met. Yeah. They made the playoffs, so you got to give them that.
But they had it all locked up, though. That's what all I've been hearing all season. They have it locked up.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Serdar in a while.
Yeah,
on this show in a minute. So
I'm waiting for the chime in because he trolled me at Patterson Ave just from your show. He trolled me over, and I'm like, really, this guy again?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him for a while. He's been a ghost for like a week.
Yeah, well, he's probably in some bar in Queens, drowning his sorrows. But anyway, to get back to this team right now with this upcoming Cardinal series, I am really optimistic. This is the team that I wanted to face in this first round wild card series. We've had the Cardinals number this year. I know that doesn't mean that we're going to have their number with this series. However, the thing that does not concern me is the pitching. The thing that concerns me the most is the hitting, because there has been a lot of inconsistencies within the last 3 or so weeks with the hitting. And the last time I was on here, I said, it was after a bad loss, and I had said, I'm not sure this team even deserves to be in the playoffs. Now, look, I am happy they're in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. 11-year drought gone and done. You have veterans on this team that are elated to be here. The Cardinals are the team that eliminated us the last time we were in. There's some revenge. There's also the idea that we have their number because of what we've done to them in the season series. I think this is a very favorable matchup for the Phillies.
I do too, but as far as the revenge factor goes, Joe, it's kind of hard for me to pull 11 years of revenge up. It's been a minute, man. I mean, but when you look at this team, you look at the Adam Wainwrights, you look at the Albert Pujols, and you look at the Yadi Molinas, they're still there. And they were there 11 years ago. So I don't know if you can pull revenge there. I do remember that night very vividly when we exited the playoffs. No one knew it was going to be for 11 years. But I, as far as I'm concerned, when it came to the playoffs, I was always on the kind of side that I thought the Phillies were going to win this division. I honestly did. They had their chances. They had multiple opportunities to make a run. They never did. That's concerning to me that they never could muster up that. But at the end of the day, I am happy they're in. I would have loved the Mets. I would have actually loved to play the Mets in the first round. That would have been great TV, great fall baseball. What a way to go back into the playoffs than to have a Mets first round series. But
you would have been doing the final from Queens.
Oh,
I know you.
Yeah. Either that or the local police district. One of the other places I would have been in one of the local police districts up there up in Queens. But
it would be the EOP version of NYPD Blue.
Yeah, so come bail me out. No, it would have been great. But I think as you look at the matchups, you mentioned the Phillies were 4-3. They didn't play. They played the Cardinals back in July. They played them over a span of about a week in July. So a lot has happened for both of these teams since then.
Hmm.
Um, but they were favorable. But when you look at the Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt, Arenado, they just destroyed the Phillies all season long. They were like Ronald Acuna Jr. and they were each team has a Philly killer. Those two were two Philly killers that play for the same team. So that's a little concerning as we entered the series.
Well, you also have to keep in mind Paul Goldschmidt's probably going to win the NL MVP.
Yeah.
So therein lies an issue. But we carry kind of, I wouldn't go as far as to say MVP, but we have our home run king
Yeah.
in Kyle Schwarber. Take with that what you will. There was something that was said by Howard Eskin the other day that me and you have really like beaten to death on this show, and that's that the guy has had 46 home runs, but he doesn't have 100 RBIs. It's like that just doesn't seem logical.
And he
Like,
struck out 200 times this year. 200 times.
no, that incorrect. 199. He
Oh,
never got to 200.
that didn't count. I'm looking at ESPN right now. I'm looking at his strikeouts, 200.
Oh, well, then he must have pinched hit and then struck out. Well, that's on the manager. That's a
Um,
bad managerial move. You don't do that.
but the point is this, and we can debate this, and we're going to debate this probably well into the winter as we move into the spring, what the future of Kyle Schwarber would be on this team. And what I mean by the future, I don't necessarily mean he's not going to be part of this team. Of course he will be. But what is his role? And specifically, where does he play in the lineup? Or where does he bat in that lineup? And there's nobody out there that can sell me on the fact that he should be leading off ever again. And I don't. And if we start next season in a situation where he's the leadoff hitter, that's not good for us because he does deserve an opportunity to kind of maximize his potential with home run hitting deeper in the lineup, more runners on base potentially, and maybe get some of those runners left on base numbers down for us next year. That were epically high this year. So 46 home runs in the NL home run champion. Congratulations. It's something. I'm not saying it ain't anything. But
last time it was done back-to-back seasons, 2008, 2009 by Ryan Howard. So
yeah, but Ryan Howard, and I never thought I'd be sitting here making the comparison. Ryan Howard actually, I miss Ryan Howard. I mean, he struck out epically high amounts of times too, but he hit the ball to other sides of the field. He got on base other ways, and it wasn't just home run with him. He would get the single, the off single, and the double. He would always come up big, seemingly in big moments with runners on. Whereas Kyle Schwarber's not doing that, in my opinion.
And I don't think Ryan ever really batted really low 200s either. I think
230 maybe.
Yeah.
230, yeah.
But I take that out of for Kyle Schwarber batting 230. Like anyone would take that now. Anybody.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, you had made a text on the group text the other day, and I completely 100% agree that in the offseason, the Phillies need to go get a bat that can placate that leadoff spot, but be a good fielder too. We can't have one be such the deficiency to the other. Cut your nose off to spite your face kind of thing. But my question to you is, and I'll reiterate it too, but would you want one or two or three? Do you think there is a need for 1, 2, or 3 of those guys? Now, I'm not asking for you to name them.
Yeah.
You can if you want, but how many do you think we need in order to really push that idea, force that hand of Rob Thompson to drop Kyle to the back of that lineup towards a later spot?
So I think what we undervalue or underestimate was the impact of the Bryce Harper elbow injury and what that did to this lineup and what it did to the batting lineup and the fielding lineup. Not having him able to play the field really kind of messed things up. It really did. Having Kyle Schwarber play immense amount of times out there in left field, more than what he should have played.
Yep.
and not having really another option because there was no option. There wasn't another leadoff option. And then by the time they got to the point where they were maybe thinking about it, it was too late.
Yeah.
So, um, one, I honestly Trey Turner, and that name is going to be a name that we're going to say a lot over the next few months until hopefully he's a Philly. I think Trey Turner would turn this lineup in a complete different way. Couple that with Bryce Harper being able to play the field again. I think we definitely have maybe with a little bit more mobility in that lineup to move people around. I'm not saying we maybe go out and get another one. Uh, I don't know, but Bryson Stott will continue to mature. Alec Bohm will continue to mature. These are top of the lineup type guys. These are number twos, and I know in old school baseball maybe Alec Bohm is more of a number three, but Bryson Stott could be a two if he continues to mature as a hitter. And we get him a Trey Turner as a one, and then we put Harper at 4, Schwarber at 5, Remuto 6, Castellano 7. That's more the lineup I'm looking at potentially next season. So right now, Trey Turner would do for me, and then a continued progression of both Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm offensively.
See, I am of the opinion with you with Trey Turner. I, however, would lean closer to 2, only because like you said, with both question marks with Bryce's elbow, we don't know if that's really going to heal or go away enough for him to field next year a full 162 games or even 82 games or 81 games. Like we would need to evaluate that day by day in the off season. And the other thing is that I'll touch on is the thing you're saying that I agree with 100%, that Kyle Schwarber played the field way too many times this season.
Yeah.
So my feeling is Trey Turner is a great pickup, but I would also look to like people like a Jock Peterson or a person that can kind of still have a little bit of that punch from the top of the lineup, similar to Kyle, but not necessarily as reckless as Kyle was. Jock is going to give you 20 home runs, but the thing that Jock's going to also give you is he's going to give you consistent good at bats, not swinging at the first pitch, trying to hit the ball 500 yards. It's just not, it doesn't work that way.
No.
So I would like to, just because I'm greedy, but I love the Trey Turner. I've told you I'm a fan of that. And I think it would make this lineup like exponentially filthy. And for those people who think Rhys Hoskins he's got one more year of arbitration. So what we know is that they're going to settle on the arbitrator is going to come down somewhere in the middle. Like, the Phillies are going to lowball Rhys, and Rhys is going to want money because of what he's done this year with 30 and 30. However, when that arbitration gets settled, I'm almost certain that Dabrowski is going to try and figure out a way to move him.
I 100% agree that he's going to try to figure out a way to move him, and in any type of scenario, if it could even be a trade deadline deal next year. It's just that I don't think Dombrowski has Rhys Hoskins as long-term plans here, and he's not going to give him the real money when he does become a free agent. And so, why would you not move him? Because he's going to walk, he'll get nothing. So, I agree. I don't think Rhys Hoskins has got long for the red pinstripe world, and I'm okay with that. Honestly, am. He's a DH. He's a DH for somebody. And right now we are a team full of DHs, and we just don't have the room for him. We need a first baseman, and he's just not that guy. And I'm tired of watching him in those cold streaks, and then he goes out there and he butchers the field. It's just there's no improvement with him. It's the same thing, up and down, up and down, up and down. There's nothing that he's improving on. Maybe he's gotten a little bit better in the field, but still, I'm waiting for that moment coming up here in the next few days that his fielding cost us. So I agree. I think he's not long for this world. Joe, let's go into the line one last time. Game number 162. As I mentioned, not much really more than a spring training type affair there in Houston today. But the Phillies would finish with 2 runs on 4 hits, no errors. The Astros 3 runs on 12 hits, no errors. Scoring, Chase McCormick got, or Chaz McCormick got things going in the third inning when he would double in Dubon to make it 1-0 Astros, and then Alvarez would knock in McCormick to make it 2-0 Astros. That was your score at the end of three, and then that's the way it stayed to the seventh when Christian Vasquez would homer to make it 3-0. Phillies would get things going in the eighth. Brandon Marsh would double in Dalton Guthrie to make it 3-1, and then Reese Hoskins with sac fly, Nick Maton in to make it 3-2, and that is your final score, 3-2. Not really going to go over individual numbers. Nothing to really shake a stick at on this line today. Phillies were pretty much held in check since clinching their playoff berth back on Monday. It hasn't been an offensive showing at all, as JT hasn't played in the last two games. Schwarber was back in there today, but he was out the other day. Just kind of a mixed match of people getting some time off. And then pitching-wise, there is something I do want to mention. Bailey Falter pitched an inning today, 2 hits. Obviously, that is a sign to me that he may be in play for Sunday if necessary. Michael Plessmeyer would come in. He pitched the bulk of the game, 6 innings, 9 hits, 3 runs. They were all earned, 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. Nick Nelson would work an inning of 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout relief. On the Astros side of things, Valdez gets the win. He's 17-6, went 5, 2 hits, struck out 10. Phillies struck out another 13 times today. They've struck out 29 times over the last 2 days as we get kind of to the end of the season. And there you have it, 3-2. And it's now off to St. Louis Friday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. Nothing official has been announced, but Zach Wheeler is potentially and probably your game 1 starter. They're saying Mikolas would probably be the most potential candidate for the Cardinals in game 1. Nola in game 2 is a dead lock for this team. Wainwright probably game 2 as well for the Cardinals. And it's on to the playoffs, Joe Marks. And is it on? And also it's on to this epically long road trip is now going to continue on to games 11 and 12. Joe, does that wear on the team a little bit that they've been on the road for going on almost 3 weeks now?
Yeah, it will, and especially if for it being like coast to coast kind of situation, Nationals, then to Texas, down
to Chicago, the DC, Texas, now to St. Louis.
That's right. Yeah,
So,
you're basically going back to almost going back to where you started in that road trip, and that is, it's kind of insane. But here's the positive to a long road trip: it brings teams together. They fight together because they don't have outside distraction.
Yeah.
They don't have, they miss their families, but they're fighting to get home to their families. And believe me, there's some urgency in this team. However, it caught me a little, I would say, off guard that I heard a comment from Rob Thompson that I did not like after last night's game, which was, now I get it. It's fair. It's a fair point, but I don't want to hear my manager say this. And it wasn't a game that mattered. It was a game. It wasn't a game that mattered. So for me, it was like, but every game matters. I mean, I get that you have the playoffs wrapped up, and I get everyone's probably hungover. I get that. Thank God we don't have to play until Friday. But you have to be able to put, as the manager, you have to put a sense of urgency. You can't just flip a switch. Not in baseball. You just can't. And I've been saying that all year because some of the lack of inconsistencies this team has had offensively, it feels like from time to time, whether it's the players or the manager at the time, even when Girardi was here, there was this ideal that you could just flip a switch, and you just can't.
Yeah, no, and the sense of urgency, as you mentioned, was always at times called into question by me, and especially during those opportunities that I mentioned earlier on about maybe making a run at this division, the Mets series and the Braves series, some of the pitching decisions. I go back to the series in Philadelphia against the Mets where they had the doubleheader, and then they weren't going to pitch Syndergaard. It was his natural time to pitch, and yet they weren't going to pitch him for whatever reason. And they went with Bailey Falter. We ended up winning that game, but still, it just seemed to me that they weren't necessarily living for the moment, that they were kind of preparing for something in the future that might or may not be there. And then as well as yesterday, listen, the number 2 wild card seed was still in our grasp yesterday if they would have won. We were only a game behind the Padres, and we had the tiebreaker. So we could have ran the Padres down technically. But yeah, it didn't seem like they were obviously with resting 5 starters yesterday. They were resigned to that number 3 wild card spot. So I don't know what that's all about. I got it. It's a long season. People need some time off, and if you're in the playoffs and all you're going to do is improve by 1 seed, you're not going to get home game out of it. Whatever the case may be, maybe it's okay, and maybe the matchup with the Cardinals is more favorable. But you're right. There seems to be not much of a sense of urgency with this team. And now that we're at a point of the season where it's nothing but urgency, they better be able to flip that switch, Joe. I agree.
Yeah, and it's not always, as we've seen with this team this season, it's not always been that easy.
No.
And it's led to a lot of fan frustration, a lot of frustration from me and from you, and just in general, this team. Okay, so John Middleton made a statement saying that the pressure's off. Yeah, I get it. But you made it in 11 years. However, there is expectations here. Let's be real. Like, I'm not expecting these guys to have made the playoffs and then just roll over and die. I'm just not. I said at the beginning that my prediction was NLCS.
Yeah, I hope that is the case, Joe. And you're right. There is a little bit of there's a little thing going on in the back of my mind about that too. Listen, Joe, we're up against EOP Live, so I want to just kind of wrap things up, and I want to thank everybody out there that came along with this ride for me during the regular season. Joe Marks included. Joe, you were a guest on this show multiple times throughout the season. I want to thank you, everybody who chimed in. We're not going anywhere, of course. We'll be back here. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about coming back on tomorrow night to do like a kind of a playoff preview show. More to follow on that. If something's going to be coming down on that, I'll let you guys know. But definitely Friday night and Saturday night, or Friday afternoon, Saturday night, I will be back. We're not going anywhere, but it is the end of the regular season. It was a great season. I enjoyed it. 6 months of fun. Joe Marks, what are your parting shots, if you have any?
The hunt for Red October is over. Red October is here, and let's just enjoy what is coming. Listen, Philly fans, I said this on the Cuz earlier. Just imagine if the Phillies go far and your Eagles go, into Arizona and win, the Sixers are going to start in a week and a half, 2 weeks. This town is going to be awfully buzzing with a lot of different sports news and a lot of different sporting events. So Philly fans, get ready. It's Red October.
It is. And we will talk to you guys soon. Go Phils, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.
Later.